Hello, I'm Jenny Asha. I'm a teacher in primary schools and now at uni as well, sharing my love of literature to help teach literacy. I'm also a mum of three kids, and two are in high school and one's in primary school. So I understand what parents are attempting at the moment. Here's one of my children to join us. This is Samuel. Do you want to say hello?
Hello,
Will you tell people, tell the mums and dads and teachers how old you are and what grade you're in, Samuel?
I'm 8 years old and I'm in year three.
Hmm. What's the best thing about staying at home at the moment, Samuel?
I can ride on my bike on the road and there's no cars around.
That's pretty cool, isn't it? One of our favourite things to do is to snuggle up together on the lounge and read, isn't it? Why do you think you like that?
It's only us together and we can read together.
That's togetherness. It's fun, isn't it? Now, lots of kids are missing their friends and their teachers and their grandparents at the moment. How do you think that a good book might help them to not feel so lonely, to escape from those things? Why do
I
you
like
like reading?
I like reading because it can take me into another world.
Oh, interesting. Into another world with other people and other places, hey? Hmm. Some of your favourite books are bad guys, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it about the bad guys' characters that you like? How do how do your feelings change when you're reading about the bad guys?
When the players um come become happy, I feel happy for them.
Oh yeah. And what about when they solve a problem or achieve something? How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel good.
Mhm. So really, you're saying sort of your feelings align with the characters' feelings.
Yeah.
So if they are feeling like they've achieved something or accomplished something, that makes you feel a bit like that too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, we've got lots of different books in our house, and we've been reading in lots of different places at the moment. We've got books spread all over our lounge room floor, and we've got a great big cushion that you like to flop on there and read, don't you?
Yeah.
And we've been, where else have you been reading? You've been reading under a tree,
Yeah.
and we set up a tent so that you could read outside and put some pillows and things out there. And you've even sat in a box and read, haven't you?
Yeah.
What's your favourite place to read?
Um, in bed because it's warm and nobody else is there to distract me.
Oh, that's cool. And you can sort of snuggle down under the covers, can't you?
Yeah.
You've been reading a lot of different books. You've been reading stories, but you've been reading some information too, haven't you? What's some of the things that you've learnt in the books that you've been reading?
I've been learning about planets
Oh, yes. And you
and
had a good talk with Dad about the planets that you'd been reading about, and you ended up watching a little clip by Brian Cox after that, didn't you?
yeah,
What else? What else have you learnt?
about bridges.
Bridges. And what did you do when after you read the book about bridges?
I did some schoolwork on it.
Oh, that's right. You wrote a bit of a report, didn't you?
Yeah.
And what about clouds? You were reading something about clouds, and what did that make you want to do?
Oh yeah. When I listened to this video about clouds, um, I designed a cloud maker.
That's right, a cloud maker to help the farmers with making rain, didn't you?
Yeah.
And there was another book that we were reading, a gardening book, and that made you want to look at our garden. And we went for a walk around our neighbourhood, and you took these photos.
Yeah.
Do you remember doing that? And it helped you to look really closely at all of the different things. Well, thank you very much, Samuel. I'm going to talk to the mums and dads and parents now about some of the activities that you and I designed. So you can go and play now. We'll just say goodbye to everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Well, I've been writing units of work for the CBCA shortlisted picture book of the year for a number of years now. But this year, when I was reading them with Samuel, he and I have come up with some things that parents might like to do at home. So we've come up with some suggestions to help you talk and read and write and make. And while these ideas are based in best practice literacy educational research, but I've designed them so that they're things that flow on from the natural interaction with books. So I don't want to replicate the classroom type of lessons in the way that Samuel has been enjoying books and talking and reading more and writing and making as a flow on from his experience with the good books. I thought that I could come up with some ways to help other families do those things too. So in terms of the way that I've labelled the activities, I've given them these 4 headings. So for the talk activities, I'm hoping that I can use, or parents can use those suggestions to help share with their children, share their own knowledge and experience, and help develop that closeness of relationship. But hopefully too, my suggestions are designed to help children to think in a certain way before they read the book, so then they'll be able to better understand the book. One of the notable books from the CBCA was this beautiful book written by Moo Mike Williams, and it's a fabulous book about it's actually a bilingual book, and it's a very personal exploration of his life and his art and his experience of the land rights struggle in past decades in Australia. So this sort of a book would really encourage parents to share their own experiences or knowledge of land rights, of reconciliation, but it would also encourage you to explore the artwork of this particular artist and other Indigenous artists. When Samuel and I read Mr. Chicken All Over Australia, we ended up talking about the big things, the landmarks. This is a very light-hearted book in the vein of lots of Lee Hobbs's books. But we ended up going exploring on Google Maps and finding out if these place names that he mentions really exist and where they are, and looking at some of the examples of the big things that some of which I've visited, but Samuel hasn't. So he was able to see a photo using Google Maps of the different things. But generally speaking, those talk activities that I've suggested there, there's no right and wrong with the way that you talk about a book with your child. And the importance is to be sharing and listening to each other. That's the overall aim. I've also created some read activities or suggestions. Now, there's so many great books that encourage parent and child to be reading together. Here's some of the other notable books. There's a Skeleton Inside You. This is a book that encourages a child to press the pages and hold their hand up and really interact with the story. When Samuel and I read Baz and Ben's, we took on the roles, the way that the blue character, and as opposed to the tealy green aqua colour character, the text in the book matches in colour, so we know who's talking when, and that made for really lovely read aloud between the two of us. I See is a great example of a book that's really designed to be read together. And you can see from the picture there that I've included that you're meant to sit one person either side of the book and turn the pages, and each of you read aloud the text, and you're viewing the image from a slightly different perspective. And when Samuel and I read that book together, it actually brought the other older children in my house um, running to see what we were doing. And they immediately, as soon as we finished reading, they wanted to have a go at it themselves and see the book from different perspectives. It's just so important to be reading good books together, always. And the suggestions that I've provided for ways to read with your child, they're designed really just to be enjoying the book, its words and its pictures. So they're meant to be very fun explorations of the sounds of language and the beautiful and interesting illustrations. So while I've written the talk and reading activities to be done between an adult and a child, I've also made some suggestions for writing and making activities that children can do alone. If the parent wants to join in, they can, of course, but I'm hoping that I've set up things so that the parent can just put the materials in place and make the suggestion to the child, and the rest can be then left to the child's imagination. So good books will prompt us to respond in some way, whether through simply appreciating the story and talking and sharing our thoughts out loud, or they can be springboards for our imagination and creativity. So the writing activities that I've suggested are there so that they can flow on from reading the books together. So one activity that I've suggested for Hello Lighthouse is, after reading, have a look at the last page, look at the illustrations, and this is a page with no writing. And so this is an opportunity for you to keep talking about what the characters might be thinking or saying to each other, and then children can have a go at writing maybe some speech bubbles or thought bubbles, and in that way sort of add to the text for themselves. It's important that we're keeping children's hand busy at the moment, as even more so than normal. And it's not just about relieving boredom. Children, when they're designing and making, they're problem solving, they're using trial and error, they're learning about cause and effect, they're using muscles, from the tiny hand muscles as they fold or cut through to the bigger whole body muscles when they're bending and lifting and crouching down. So it's making is important for us physically and mentally. Children are learning about textures and they're discovering the properties of materials as they work with them. So the suggestions that I've made for the make activities are, again, things that can be done after the reading, so that children can be immersed in a creative act that gives them that opportunities to be imaginative for a concentrated period of time, hopefully. And so that is good for their mental health as well. So I'm hoping that the different activities that I've come up with, the talking, the reading, the writing and making, can be things, like I say, that just flow out of sharing a good book, that you'll have a lot of fun and have really good times shared together around books. And the types of activities that I'm suggesting can apply to any manner of good books. So hopefully they'll be a help to you and provide lots of fun times together. Thanks very much.